Libra, my dear soul of balance and light, something urgent is unfolding in your energetic field, and it's not just a shift. It's a full spiritual interruption. This message is not entertainment, it's intervention. The danger is near, and your higher self has guided you here, at the exact moment when you were meant to hear this. So let me ask you something only you can answer. Have you felt lately like the ground beneath you is quietly crumbling, but no one else seems to notice? That eerie stillness before a storm, that instinct that something unseen is pressing against your reality, pulling at your peace, testing the boundaries of your emotional stability? If you've sensed that, it's because your soul already knows. Libra, you are standing on the threshold of something massive. And this reading is your call to awaken before the collapse, not after. Here at Zodiac Whisper Tarot, we don't deal in predictions for curiosity's sake. We are here for sacred transformation. And what's being revealed in this moment is too important to miss, not just for your journey, but for your survival on a soul level. That's not drama. That's divine urgency. Over the next few minutes, I will show you what your guides have been trying to say through your dreams, your delays, your discomfort. I will help you see why your usual balance has been distorted, why people around you are shifting in energy, and why certain doors are slamming shut without explanation. But first, pause and take a breath with me. Because this is not just a horoscope. It's a mirror. A spiritual reckoning. A divine broadcast tuned to your frequency. And if you feel that even the slightest flicker of, "this is about me," then I want you to confirm it with the universe. Type the number 17 in the comments below. Not just because it's sacred, but because 17 is the number of resurrection after the fall, divine alignment after collapse. It's the vibration of rising from ashes. And if you've already been feeling that ash phase, this video will show you how to rise. Before we continue, let me take a moment to share something important from my heart to yours. Thank you. Thank you for being here. For every like, every comment, every subscription you've offered this channel, you've helped build a spiritual home for those of us navigating life with intuition, faith, and purpose. Your support is what fuels Zodiac Whisper Tarot and allows me to continue delivering messages that aren't just informative, they're transformative. And trust me, Libra, you'll want to stay with me until the very last moment of this reading. Because what the universe is about to show you will not only explain everything you've been feeling, it may just save you from the very collapse you feel approaching. So settle in. Light a candle if you wish. Turn off the noise outside. And allow this sacred space to open up a conversation that's been waiting to reach you. Are you ready? Because the truth doesn't wait. And neither will destiny. When something in your life begins to fall apart, a job, a relationship, a belief you held close, it's natural to panic, to want to hold it all together. But Libra, what if the breakdown isn't meant to break you, but to break you open? This is where the energy of the Tower steps in, not as a punishment, but as a sacred intervention. It represents a force beyond your control that says, enough. You weren't made to live this small. And sometimes, the only way for truth to rise is for illusion to crumble first. You see, Libra, as a sign ruled by Venus, you have a deep-rooted desire for peace, beauty, and balance. But when harmony becomes a disguise for suppression, when keeping the peace means betraying your deeper truth, the universe cannot stay silent. That's why the Tower appears. It doesn't wait for your comfort. It arrives with precision and divine timing to clear what no longer serves the evolution of your soul. From an astrological perspective, this phase mirrors the work of Pluto and Saturn, two cosmic architects of transformation and structure. As they activate Libra's 4th and 7th houses, they bring tension to the foundations: your home, your emotional safety, your partnerships. If you've been building your life on outdated agreements, inherited fears, or silent compromises, these areas are likely shaking now. It's not random. It's required. These shifts are not here to punish your heart, they're here to free it. Sometimes the safest ground is the one that falls away, because it leads you to build again, this time from authenticity. What many overlook about the tower is that it's not just about external collapse, it's often the moment when the walls inside you crack. The wall that keeps you from speaking your truth. The wall that keeps you in a job that no longer feeds your spirit. The wall that says, you must earn your worth. These are walls that may have once protected you, but now they imprison the light within you. So when life begins to dismantle those structures, it's not an attack on your identity, it's a call to your highest identity. And yes, this stage can be painful. Exhaustion may creep in. Sleep may become elusive. Your nervous system might feel overstimulated, as if you're bracing for something you can't quite name. If you're in that space, start with what you can control. Pause your social media scrolling. Breathe before checking your phone in the morning. Write down what you're feeling instead of holding it in. Drink warm water with ginger to soothe your system. These aren't just wellness trends, they are anchors when the world within you begins to shift. In moments like these, I often remember something shared in spiritual circles, how sometimes what looks like loss is really redirection. There are countless stories of people whose lives fell apart only to discover they were never truly aligned with them in the first place. Like the woman who lost her job and finally launched the holistic healing practice she dreamed of for years. Or the man whose engagement ended just weeks before he was diagnosed with something life-changing, giving him the space and freedom to heal without guilt. Divine intervention rarely feels comfortable in the moment, but it is always precise. You don't have to call this God, Libra. You don't even have to believe in fate. But if you believe in your own growth, in your own right to live a life that reflects the truth of who you are, then let this tower moment be the permission slip you've been waiting for. Let it be a sacred invitation, not a cosmic punishment. And maybe, just maybe, this isn't about everything collapsing. Maybe it's about everything being reconstructed around the person you're becoming, not the person you were taught to be. So take a breath. Let what must fall, fall. What remains after will be real, and it will be yours. Sometimes, the universe doesn't push us forward, it gently suspends us midair. And Libra, that's exactly where you may find yourself now. In this strange pause, where nothing moves fast and nothing feels certain, you might be wondering if you're doing something wrong. But you're not. You're being invited into a moment of deep reflection, and the hanged man is the sacred symbol of this invitation. You are not falling behind. You are being positioned to see what couldn't be seen from your old angle. This stage often comes right after the breakdown of the tower. After everything collapses, we expect immediate answers, quick resolutions. But life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes, clarity doesn't arrive through movement, it arrives through stillness. That stillness can be uncomfortable, especially for someone like you, Libra, who thrives on harmony, action, and connection. Yet, In that uncomfortable stillness is a wisdom that can only be reached when we stop trying to fix and start trying to see. The Hanged Man asks you to examine who or what is anchoring you to a version of life that no longer fits. Are you holding on to a relationship because it once felt safe even though now it drains your light? Are you staying silent in situations that no longer honor your voice, simply because you've always been the peacemaker? These aren't easy questions, but they are liberating ones. And this card tells us, you're not being punished, you're being gifted with a new vantage point. And from that vantage point, something important will become clear. Numerologically, this card is tied to the number 12, a sacred code of temporary sacrifice that leads to greater liberation. It's the pause before the miracle, the stretch of time where the soul grows in secret. In everyday life, this might show up as delays, cancellations, shifts in plans, or even physical fatigue that forces you to rest. While frustrating, these are often divine protection in disguise, a space being carved out so you can look deeper than surface solutions and ask better questions. One of the most powerful things you can do in this phase is simplify. Create quiet. Let yourself breathe. Let yourself not know. It's okay not to have answers. It's okay to rest in the middle of the question. One small but powerful practice you can try is spending 15 minutes each morning in silence. Not to do anything, just to be. To sit, to breathe, to ask gently, what am I not seeing? It might not make sense right away, but over time, the answers will rise not from your mind, but from the depth of your soul. There's a story I once heard about a woman who prayed for a breakthrough, but everything in her life seemed to slow down instead. She felt abandoned by the very forces she trusted. But during that stillness, she discovered parts of herself she had long buried: her voice, her courage, her dreams. And when the answers finally came, they didn't come with fireworks. They came with peace. That kind of peace only comes after you let go of who you think you're supposed to be and begin to honor who you actually are. Libra, you are not lost. You are being rerouted. And you don't need to rush this process. You only need to trust that this time this pause is not empty. It is sacred. There is purpose in this waiting. There is meaning in the questions. And when the moment is right, movement will return, not because you forced it, but because you've finally aligned with what truly deserves your energy. So if everything feels upside down right now, maybe that's because you're being shown the truth that can only be seen from this angle. And when you emerge, you won't just move forward, you'll move wiser, stronger, and freer than you ever thought possible. Not everything that unsettles you is external, and not every shadow comes from outside. Libra, when the moon rises in a reading, it brings a quiet but powerful message. The greatest distortions we face are often the ones we've learned to live with. It's not just the falsehoods others tell us, it's the ones we've learned to tell ourselves. The moon doesn't arrive to accuse or frighten, it comes to illuminate what's been hiding in plain sight, to ask you gently, what are you afraid to know? This moment in your journey is about more than just uncovering deception from others. It's about addressing the hidden contracts you've signed with fear, the subtle ways you've been taught to diminish your light, to second-guess your worth, to tolerate spaces that shrink your spirit. Whether these patterns came from childhood, culture, or generational stories passed down like invisible scripts, the energy of the moon invites you to question them. Not with judgment, but with tenderness. Because until you acknowledge these silent agreements, you may unconsciously keep yourself small, waiting for permission to shine, permission that was never meant to be given by others. In astrology, the moon governs the subconscious, the emotional undercurrent, the realm of dreams and intuition. When its energy becomes active, your senses become more heightened, but so do your fears. You may notice things others miss: shifts in tone, the hidden meaning behind words, the discomfort in a room no one else acknowledges. This is your gift, Libra, your sensitivity, your attunement to harmony and misalignment alike. But if that gift isn't grounded in self-trust, it can feel overwhelming, like carrying the emotions of the entire world while forgetting your own. The truth is, you've likely been absorbing more than you realize. As an air sign ruled by Venus, you naturally mirror the emotional frequencies of others, seeking to soothe and balance. But in doing so, you may have unintentionally made yourself the emotional filter for people who don't take responsibility for their own energy. You may have mistaken their chaos as your fault, their silence as your inadequacy, their withdrawal as a judgment of your worth. And so you've adapted, performing peace instead of living truth, becoming what others needed, even when it left you feeling invisible. The moon asks you to stop, to pause, to look inward and ask, whose reflection am I carrying? Whose fear am I calling my own? Because your inner light, Libra, is not meant to be a reflection. It is meant to radiate. In practical terms, this is the time to tend to your energetic hygiene. Begin small. Take a salt bath once a week with lavender to release stagnant energy. Journal your dreams in the morning, they are full of symbolic clues from your subconscious. Meditate with silver and violet light. These frequencies help you clear emotional fog and strengthen inner vision. Most importantly, start writing down the truths you've been too polite to say out loud. Let them exist on the page first, where they're safe, before bringing them to light in your outer life. I once heard a story about a woman who kept having a recurring dream of being trapped in a room with no doors. She thought it meant she was stuck. But over time, she realized that the room wasn't a prison, it was her own silence. The moment she finally wrote the truth she was avoiding, a door appeared in her next dream and she walked through. It didn't change everything overnight, but it began something. That's the invitation the moon brings. Not to fix everything instantly, but to acknowledge what you've buried and to bring it to light slowly, honestly, gently. So if things feel hazy, heavy, or emotionally distorted right now, don't rush to escape it. Stay with it. Listen to what the fog is trying to say. Because somewhere in that murkiness is a message that your soul has been whispering for years. And once you hear it, truly hear it, you'll never let yourself be hidden again. There comes a moment in every journey when the silence breaks, not with chaos, but with clarity. For Libra, that moment is now. After the unsettling pause of the Hanged Man and the emotional fog of the moon, the card of judgment arrives like a trumpet from within, reminding you that this isn't just about reflection anymore. This is a call to rise. Not in noise, not in rebellion, but in truth. The kind of truth that has been quietly building inside you, waiting for you to stop apologizing for your light. Judgment is not a card of shame or regret. It is a card of realignment. It represents the moment when you finally hear what your soul has been whispering beneath the noise, that you were never meant to live a life of shrinking and self-sacrifice. You were designed for balance, yes, but not at the cost of your voice. Not at the cost of your calling. This is the chapter where the old stories fall away. The roles you played to be accepted. The silence you kept to avoid conflict. The smaller dreams you clung to because the bigger ones felt too unreasonable. Judgment says, that version of you served its purpose. Now it's time to rise into who you really are. In astrology, this is often the influence of the ninth house and Pluto transits, bringing about higher truth, long-distance realizations, and karmic awakening. These moments don't always come dressed in glory. Sometimes they show up as a casual message, a stranger's word, a memory resurfacing, but they pierce straight to the soul. You may feel like it's coming out of nowhere, but nothing about divine timing is accidental. There's an energy around you now that says, pay attention. This is different. This is your moment. Even in everyday life, this phase is recognizable. Maybe someone from your past reappears, not to reopen a wound, but to remind you how far you've come. Maybe an opportunity you thought you lost returns in a new form. Or maybe you finally feel brave enough to say no, not out of anger, but from a calm, grounded knowing that your yes is sacred, and you will no longer give it where it isn't honored. What's most beautiful about this stage is that you don't have to make it happen. You just have to respond. The awakening is already occurring. Your only task is to stop resisting it. Stop shrinking from the version of yourself that's waiting on the other side of this moment. There's a saying I often share with clients: sometimes, God doesn't show you the whole staircase. He just shows you the next step and trusts you to take it. Whether you call it God, Source, Spirit, or simply inner knowing, this is that step. One foot. One truth. One yes that comes from a place of alignment, not obligation. Judgment teaches us that resurrection is real, not in some far-off spiritual concept, but in the everyday courage it takes to let go of who you were, so you can live as who you truly are. And the moment you do, everything changes. Because life meets you at the level of your clarity. The world responds not to who you pretend to be, but to who you finally claim yourself to be. So if something inside you is stirring right now, a feeling that you've waited long enough, that you've dimmed too much, listen. That's your inner trumpet. That's your rebirth. And this time, Libra, you don't return as a version of who you were. You rise as a reflection of the truth you were always meant to embody. Quietly powerful. Authentically you. And finally ready. When the world begins to feel unfamiliar, when repeated numbers follow you through your day, when dreams begin to speak in symbols you've never understood before, when a moment triggers a memory that doesn't belong to this life, it's not confusion. It's confirmation. Libra, you are not going crazy. You are waking up. And what's happening is not just personal. It's purposeful. Because you, of all signs, were born under the symbol of the scales, and right now, more than ever, the world needs someone who can hold the tension between extremes with grace. This role isn't for the faint of heart. And yet, you were chosen for it. Not in a dramatic or grandiose sense, but in a quiet, sacred way. You are a bridge between logic and intuition, between what's falling and what's rising, between who people pretend to be and who they truly are. This is why your life has often felt like you're standing in the middle of polarities, trying to keep everything from falling apart. You weren't sent here to absorb chaos. You were sent here to alchemize it. You may have noticed lately that your senses are sharper. You walk into a room and can feel the atmosphere shift. You sense when someone's words don't match their energy. You've started seeing signs, repeated numbers, subtle synchronicities. even hearing the same phrase in unexpected places. These are not coincidences. These are activations. Nudges from the universe reminding you of what your soul already knows, that you're here to do more than just exist. You're here to serve not through sacrifice, but through alignment. And that service begins with one simple but radical act, telling the truth. Not just to others, but to yourself. About who you are. About what you want. About what you're no longer willing to tolerate. This is the real call of the awakening, not to gain some external badge of enlightenment, but to live every day from a place of deep integrity. That's where your power lies, Libra. In your ability to be true. True to your heart, true to your values, true to the light you carry even when the world around you is dim. There's a quiet strength in those who are called to walk between worlds, a strength that is often misunderstood. You may have been told you're too sensitive, too idealistic, or too much. But sensitivity is not weakness. It's intelligence. Idealism is not naivety. It's vision. And being too much is often just being exactly what this moment in time requires. So instead of questioning your design, honor it. Instead of suppressing your gifts, develop them. That intuition you've been brushing off? It's the voice of your future self trying to lead you home. Sometimes, spiritual awakening doesn't come with thunder or fire. It comes with a gentle question whispered during your morning coffee. A pause in your chest when something feels off. A sudden knowing that you're not meant to keep playing small. And when that moment arrives, as it is right now, your job isn't to understand everything at once. Your job is to listen, to soften, and to allow yourself to be redefined. I once heard a story of someone who, after years of chasing success and validation, decided to take a different path, not because it made sense to others, but because it made peace within. She left behind what looked right, in exchange for what felt real. And in doing so, she discovered not only herself, but her true purpose. This is the path available to you, Libra. Not one of rebellion, but of remembrance. What's unfolding now is not just about healing your own life, it's about elevating the collective by choosing to live authentically. By being the balance bringer, not the people pleaser. By being the voice of reason and the vessel of intuition. This new world doesn't need more control. It needs more consciousness. And you, dear Libra, are a key part of its unfolding. So don't let fear make your decisions. Let faith in your design lead the way. The world is watching, and more importantly, the world is ready for the light you've been holding back. Libra, if you've made it this far, know that it's not a coincidence. You were meant to receive this message, not just hear it but feel it in the spaces between your breath, your memories, and your silent prayers for clarity. Everything you've gone through lately, the breakdowns, the distance, the inner resistance, wasn't meant to destroy you. It was designed to bring you back to yourself. Back to the radiant core of who you are when you're not performing, pleasing, or proving anything to anyone. You don't need permission to shine. You never did. You just needed the right moment to remember your light. And this right now is that moment. So ask yourself gently, without judgment, have I been living in a version of my life that only reflects what others expect of me? Have I watered myself down to maintain harmony at the cost of my own truth? Have I ignored the quiet nudge of my intuition just to keep the peace? If your heart whispers yes to any of those, then know this video is not just a video. It's a soul calling. A divine echo reminding you that you don't have to keep shrinking to fit into places you've outgrown. You don't have to keep apologizing for evolving. You are allowed to choose differently to walk forward, even if your voice shakes, even if no one else understands yet. Because you were not designed to live in hiding. You were created to bring balance into chaos, to make beauty out of conflict, to stand firm in the in-between and shine. Not because you're flawless, but because you are willing to be fully alive. And that, Libra, is the beginning of true magic. So what step will you take today to align with your truth? Will you start saying no to what no longer feels aligned? Will you create space each morning to sit with your thoughts instead of running from them? Will you start speaking the truths you've kept silent for far too long? The beauty of transformation is that it doesn't require you to be perfect, it only asks you to be honest. Even the smallest shift in your choices will ripple out into the rest of your life. And if you're feeling this message deeply, don't let it end here. Take a moment and write in the comments, "I choose to live aligned with my soul, no fear, no delay." Your voice matters. Your presence here matters. And by sharing your intention, you give someone else the courage to do the same. If this message stirred something within you, if it felt like a homecoming to a version of you you've almost forgotten, then I invite you to support this sacred space. Hit the like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, where we blend divine insight, emotional truth, and soul nourishment to support your journey every single week. Thank you, from the deepest part of my heart, for your presence here. For your willingness to feel, to reflect, to grow. Your support is what keeps this community alive and what allows us to continue bringing you messages that heal and empower. Remember, you were never just meant to survive, you were meant to awaken. And the universe, it's been calling your name all along.